One of the coolest opportunities that has come my way as part of starting the GymCrafter YouTube channel is the ability to go to different companies' headquarters to look at new product before anybody else gets to see it. And that's where I am today. Today, I am in the studio at the HQ of the Tib Bar Guy here in Cincinnati, Ohio, here to bring you a first look at a brand new product line, the Apex. Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Tim. I am the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks like you and I build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love. And as I mentioned in the intro, today I am here with a brand new product line from the Tib Bar Guy called the Apex. The Apex is another release into what's becoming a very popular category of home gym products, the adjustable bench with an ecosystem of attachments. And the cool thing about this is not only do we have a really nice adjustable bench, but this thing is going to launch with 10, count them 10 attachments. That's so much stuff that I'm going to break this into two videos. In this video, we're going to take a close look at the bench and let you know whether it measures up or not. As I mentioned in other videos, if you're going to invest in a bench ecosystem, the first thing you want to start with is a good bench. So we'll take a look at the bench in this video, and then in the next video, we're going to take a deep dive into each and every one of these 10 attachments, show you what they do, how good they are, where they attach to the bench, and all that kind of fun stuff. So with that said, let's jump into the bench. All right, so let's address the first thing that came to my mind when the Tib Bar Guy called, and I'm sure it's one of the first things that has come to your mind. Now, as you guys know, I have a couple of products by the Tib Bar Guy. I use their slant stack all the time. I use their sled tread like every day. I love that thing. But if you were to ask me to tell you the things that I like about those products, build quality and stability probably wouldn't be near the top. They're functional, they work great for what they are, but if you were to tell me you're gonna take that company and make a weight bench, I would be skeptical, and I was skeptical. But after they reassured me and they talked to me about how long they put 2 years into developing this bench and this ecosystem, what their strategy was, the fact that they named it the Apex because they wanted to differentiate it from the Tib Bar Guy brand, I took a chance, got in my car, drove the 5.5 hours down here to check it out, and honestly, I'm glad I did. As we go through this bench, you'll see how different this is than the other products that they make, both in build quality and thoughtfulness and versatility and things like that. So just wanted to clear that up front, is that what I expected as a bench from the Tib Bar Guy is not what I saw when I got here, and in a very good way. The second one is something that I talk about on the channel all the time, which is you always want to stay away from a V1 product. Now, a couple of things about V1s. Number one, globally in the home gym space, you never want to buy the first version of any kind of like new technology. As good as the Voltras are by Beyond Power, I guarantee you that in a few years, it's either they or another company are going to come out with stuff that makes the current versions just look dumb, and they're going to be a lot less money and a lot better. So that's a good example of if you can wait on stuff, usually especially something new to the home gym arena, you're going to be better off. And while bench ecosystems aren't new to garage gyms, there's really up until recently only been one company that's done that, and that's Ironmaster. One of the reasons people like the Ironmaster bench, the Super Bench V2 I think it's up to now, is they liked the idea that they could buy a bench and then also buy a leg developer and a dip station and a pull-up bar and a back extension and a preacher pad and all those things for that bench so they could buy an ecosystem. And for the longest time, that was really the only option if you wanted to approach your bench in that way in your garage gym. Now, I would call the Ironmaster kind of the V1 of that product type, and it's done very well for the last probably 20 years it's been out, and if you wanted that type of thing, that was your choice. Well, recently you've seen other companies kind of delving into this marketplace. You've seen reps starting to put accessory ports on their benches. Now they're really slow on the release of products to put in that accessory port, but you're starting to see more and more bench companies do that. You just saw the release of the Freak Athlete ABX bench, which has some really nice functionality, is a really, really good solid bench, and has not only the accessory port, but actually has some really good accessories that you can put in it. I would call those kind of the V2. You're seeing those companies really start to step things up. Dialed Motion's leg attachment that's going to go to be able to attach to pretty much any bench is another good example of somebody even going beyond V2 and really starting to make good quality things. As much as people like that Ironmaster bench, let's just be honest, it's an okay bench with okay accessories, but it was the only game in town, so people really like it. And now that you're seeing better and better choices, I think Ironmaster's really going to have to go back to the drawing board board and really step things up. They haven't really changed much in that line. However, now what I'm sitting on is what I would look at as approaching V3. And what I mean by V3 is now we have a bench that's got multiple accessory ports, and it's launching with an ecosystem of 10 accessories that aren't just things that were designed to have something that fits in an accessory port because the accessory port is there and just make it out of some bare tubing and something that kind of functions but isn't ideal. Here we've got a bench with 3 accessory ports, and we've got multiple accessories that were designed from the ground up to be good, high quality, solid accessories. Things on par with the Rep Fitness leg developer, things on par with the better groups of accessories that are coming out. Definitely on par, and in my case, quite a bit better than what you see on the Freak Athlete piece. So in my mind, if you're looking to get into a bench with an ecosystem, you're just now starting to see with the ABX, with the Apex, a time where it might behoove you to go, hey, I think we're past V1, we're getting past V2, and we're into V3. So with those overarching things said about the bench and kind of about the space and what my expectations were coming in, let's take a look and do a tour of this bench. I'll take you through front to back, top to bottom, and show you the things that I like, the things that I wish were different, and hopefully point out all the stuff that you guys might have questions on, because there's a lot of benches out there now. We're gonna start here at the foot of the bench, and as I go through, I'm not only gonna point out the things, like I said, that I think are good and I think that maybe could be better, but I'm also going to do some comparisons. Right now, if you're in the market for a bench for your garage gym, there's a few that you're gonna be looking at. First of all, if you're looking for just the best overall bench, you're probably gonna be looking at either the Blackwing by Rep Fitness or the Man Ray by Rogue. Those are big, heavy benches with their own drawbacks and own benefits. The Rogue is super expensive. The Rep Fitness Blackwing is very, very heavy. I'm not gonna compare this to those. I think those are kind of in a category in and of themselves. The benches that I'm gonna compare this to are the Rep Nighthawk, the Rep AB5200, the ABX by Freak Athlete, and then also the Ironmaster Superbench V2. I think if you're looking for benches right now, you're probably gonna narrow it down to mostly those. And if you're looking at benches and you haven't narrowed it down to those, just go ahead and save yourself some time and narrow it down to those, because those are really some of the best ones that you can pick for your gym right now. And as I go through, like I said, I'll kind of show you what I like better about this on some of those and what maybe those are better than this on some of them. So as you're deciding between those benches, you can kind of make a decision of what things matter to you in your gym and what things maybe don't so much. So starting off here with the front foot, there's something I want to note, which is this is a pre-production unit. So it is almost all the way, there's about 90 to 95% of the way there from what they say, but there are a couple of things that are going to be different on the production model than this. This is one of them. While the foot plate is going to look like this is a 3D printed hard plastic, which means that this slides around on the rubber a little bit. The production version, this will be rubberized and it won't move at all. And that's actually why you see this wide plate design. This wide plate design at the foot is kind of becoming table stakes for most good adjustable benches. The reason for that is this is going to give you stability. It's not going to wobble back and forth. It's going to not get in the way of your feet. It's a single post design, which is what you want from a good adjustable bench. So that as you're benching, you can get your feet tucked underneath, get some good leg drive, and nothing is in the way. This is the type of foot you're going to see on the ABX from Freak Athlete. This is the foot you're going to see on the AB5200 and the Nighthawk. This is not the foot that you're going to see on the Ironmaster, which is one of my biggest knocks on that bench, is it's just got the traditional old school bar in the front, and to me that gets in the way of benching. So it's one of the things that makes it not the best adjustable bench to start off with. So I really like this foot. Also, you've got a nice front handle here, nice and big, nice and down low. One of the issues you'll see with for the Bells of Steel benches is their handles are in weird places. This is really the way you want to go. This is going to be a knurled handle. Now I will tell you the knurling on the Rep benches are nicer. As a barbell manufacturer, they have transferred that knowledge over to their benches. However, this is knurled. This is really nice. It gives you plenty of grip to hold it. So this is kind of, like I said, this is the foot that you want to see on most things. Another thing I want to point out when we're down here is something else that you're seeing change, which I really like. You saw this first on the Nighthawk, and I love that it's here. Notice there's no silver hardware. It's all black bolts, it's all black screw heads. Everything's kind of got a nice blacked out look, and just looking at it, it gives it a little bit overall premium look. In fact, it's something that if you didn't point out, you might not even notice, but it's just one of those things that just gives it an overall nicer feel. So that's the front foot here. Now, what I want to do is take a look at right underneath the front seat. So here under the front seat is where you're really going to start to see some differences in this bench than some other ones. Notice there's a bunch of knobs under here. There's a bunch of ports. There's some doodads here. So let me walk you through what this stuff is. So first of all, you have the first of 3 accessory ports here under the front seat. All three accessory ports are going to have the same way of securing. You've got knurled metal pop pin that you'll slide to insert whatever accessory you've got in here, and then you'll be able to screw it down so that it's nice and tight. I will tell you that most of the accessories on this, and you'll see this in the accessory video, are very secure and very stable, which is a nice change from some other benches out there that don't necessarily have the tightest tolerances in the world. So that's what this knob is for. Next, let's take a look at these two pop pins right here, which are a little odd. And what this is for is when you use the Nordic bench attachment, what that attachment is going to come with is it's going to come with a new seat. That seat is actually going to be split down the middle into two pieces. One of the drawbacks for some of the Nordic attachments is they make you kneel on the bench itself, so you're restricted to the 12 inches wide, which isn't wide enough for a lot of people. And what this allows you to do is by that split seat, which when it's together works just like this fixed seat here, but it allows you to pull these out and then slide it apart, which gives you a wider base for you to put your knees on so that it's a much more comfortable Nordic bench. Being that these guys made their bones doing Nordic type stuff, and the Nordic back extension right over here is one of their primary products, it's nice that they take that knowledge and put it into a bench and that type of attachment that allows you to do that. So that's what these other two pop pins are down here. There's a couple more things under here as well, which are these little guys right here. These are a couple of things that are going to change a little bit in the production model. They're going to be a little bit bigger. I believe they're going to be knurled. But what these are the handles when you get their leg developer and you're doing a lying leg curl. Your head's going to be down here and you kind of need handles. What they've done is really cool. They've taken these handles and they've tucked them up under the front seat. A lot of benches, like for example the ABX, what the ABX does is they put these handles out here that are fixed that I could see getting in the way or being not in the right place. I would tell you that these right here are a little bit small, and because of the way that they secure, I did find myself they were moving a little bit. Once I got used to it, and you'll see in the video on the accessories, it's not an issue, but they are going to make these a little bit bigger and knurled. But as far as how they attach, which is just pull them out and flip them up, they're going to attach that way, so they're not fixed like the ABX. So if you like a fixed handle that you could just jerk on any way that you want, that's one thing, but this is nice because it does give you a place to hold on to. It's in the right place, which is like right under your face, and like I said, they tuck right up out of the way. So they crammed an awful lot of stuff under the front of this particular piece, and that'll give you an idea of the thought and the development that went in over the last 2 years as they built this bench. Another thing that I'm going to point out while I'm down here is while this is made of mostly 11 gauge steel, there is a lot of heavier gauge steel here. This is a 105-pound bench, and a big part of that is the actual heavier gauge steel that they use in this. So this thing is a beast. It's super stable, it's super solid, and you can kind of see some of that construction under here. And meanwhile, while it's got all this stuff, nothing's rattling, nothing's shaking around, nothing's loose. You're not going to have any issues with that when you look at this bench. Now let me take a look at how this particular seat adjusts, because I think it's a nice choice that they made in this. It's different than some of the rep benches you'll see. So one of the things that this bench does that not a lot of other benches do is it's got a ton of adjustments. Just on this front portion of the seat, there are 10 different adjustments that go up and down that allow you to kind of change the seat angle into tiny little increments. That gives you two real benefits. Number one, it allows you to get this thing adjusted to exactly what you want for your body. But the second one is as you use different accessories and attachments, these little angles allow accessories to work ideally for that particular accessory instead of having to adapt an accessory to just a couple of adjustments here on the seat itself. So for example, where the ABX from Freak Athlete doesn't decline, this goes down so that you can get this out of the way if you're doing like decline sit-ups or decline ab work, whereas with the ABX, this is going to be up. So this is really nice that it allows you to do that. A nice solid pop pin, once it's in place, it's not going anywhere. And another nice thing is I mentioned the blacked out hardware. Something else that they did, which I thought was really cool, is this plate, which is overlaid on the piece of metal underneath it, is laser cut to show you the numbers, but they actually sourced this in black stainless steel. They didn't paint it black because I guess the paint was scraping off. They didn't want it to be silver because they wanted the bench to have that blacked out look. So they actually use black stainless steel here, which allows you to still see the numbers, but gives you that nice blacked out look as well. So I really like the way that this adjusts. I like how many adjustments it has. And then the last thing I'll point out, and this is going to be a difference where this is going to stand a little bit above the rep benches in my opinion, is the rep benches use a ladder style adjustment on the front. So while that's nice and easy, you don't have to pull a pop pin, you just kind of lift up on the seat or reach underneath and lower it back down. There are less adjustments on those, but the other thing is when you store your bench upright, which obviously this one does, those things can kind of flop around, whereas this thing is locked solid when it's upright. So having a pop pin type of adjustment on the front seat while maintaining a ladder style adjustment on the back portion of the seat really I think is the right combination and something that I actually like better about this bench than those rep benches. I actually think that going forward, I think that most adjustable benches that store upright or that are going to accept accessories, especially if you've got a port in the front here, you're going to want this type of adjustment with a lot of different adjustments and also with a pop pin that locks it in place so no matter where it is, it's not flopping around. With the front seat covered, let's take a look at the back seat itself. Now, before I do that, let me kind of give you the overall measurements and kind of widths and measurements of this bench so that you know if it's even going to fit in your garage or if it's going to fit your body. It is 27¼ inches wide back here at the rear foot where the wheels are. It is going to be 55 inches long in total, which also makes it 55 inches tall when stored upright. The back pad itself is 38½ inches long, and then both pads, the seat and then the back pad, are 12 inches wide. The seat is tapered in the front, as you saw in the beginning portion of the video there. The back itself has 17 adjustment points going from -10 degrees all the way up to 85 degrees, and then the seat itself has 10 adjustments going from -20 degrees up to 30 degrees. The front adjusts on a pop pin adjustment like I showed you a little bit ago, and then also the back is going to adjust on a ladder. That ladder is going to come with an option of 5 different color rail guards for the ladder adjustment. So the guard that keeps the pin from flying all over the place, which is another thing that you really want to see. A lot of benches these days just don't do that, and that is such a basic thing that I think all benches should have. You're going to be able to pick from black, white, gray, red, or blue on the pre-order date for this bench. So you're going to be able to select a two-tone bench or an all blacked out bench like this. The bench capacity itself is it is a 1,000-pound capacity. I know one of the things that people knock the Nighthawk for is it's an 800-pound capacity. Now, me personally, I don't think that matters for most people, but if it's important to you, this is a 1,000-pound capacity bench. It weighs 105 pounds, and then the feel weight when you move it around, which is becoming more and more important lately, is 45 pounds. So that puts it right at what the ABX is from Freak Athlete. That's going to put it just a tad heavier than the Nighthawk. The Nighthawk is definitely going to be lighter. The Iron Master, if you're looking for the lightest bench around, that is going to be the lightest bench around. Now, there's trade-offs with everything. One of the drawbacks to it being the lightest bench around is you also have, kind of in my opinion, the lightest weight attachments because it's not presenting a super heavy stable base to attach things to. So I do think that there is a kind of a sweet spot, and I think that this, the ABX, and then possibly the Nighthawk have kind of hit that sweet spot. And then as far as picking it up and moving it around, it's definitely lighter than the AB5200. It is definitely lighter than the Manta Ray or the Blackwing. However, it is not as light, like I said, as the Nighthawk or the Iron Master. The construction quality, as I mentioned before, is 11 gauge steel for most of it, and then there's a lot of much thicker steel where it matters. There are the 3 accessory ports that I mentioned. It does have the integrated handles under that front seat that I mentioned. It also, on the rear, which I'll show you here in a second, has integrated retractable band pegs, which is super cool. So that's the overall specs. Now let's dig into the back pad. Coming on down here to the back pad, there's a couple of things I want to point out right away. Number one, this is a full-length back pad. There is a trend in a lot of benches, the ABX, the Shorty bench from Prime Fitness, to where you've got a split back pad. That actually started, I believe, with what's called the Infinity bench by Exponent Edge. I think that was the first one of those to come out, although overseas those benches have been around for a long time. It's not a new idea. It's just kind of newer to the US garage gym space. So this one, they've chosen to go with a solid back pad. Now, the benefit of the split back pad is that it allows you to have a shorter back pad for when you're doing upright stuff, doing overhead stuff with your triceps, and there is an accessory for this bench that addresses that issue. So I don't think it's a miss. I actually prefer to have the solid back pad and to have this one. This is 38½ inches long, and I'll show you in a second why that's important. The pad gap is another thing that's going to be a big deal to some people and not a big deal to others. This pre-production model has a wider gap than what the production model is going to have. The production model is going to have a 1-inch gap. The hinge is recessed so that you don't actually feel it. So for me, this isn't an issue. For some people, that's going to be an issue. So the ABX from Freak Athlete does have a 0 gap that adjusts itself as the back goes up and down. And I know that that plus that split pad are going to be a big deal for some folks. So that's going to be, if those two things are like, this is what I have to have in a bench, that's going to be a better choice for you than this one. But this one, for me, I personally like better. So for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't like the moving parts of the back pad. I don't like the less moving parts, in my opinion, the better. With all of these ports and stuff, there's already enough moving parts to worry about. I don't know that splitting the seat in half is going to be another thing that I would want to do. you. The other thing is that this is a long enough back pad. So at home I have the Nighthawk and I have the AB 5200, and I have to be honest with you, even though I think the Nighthawk is a better bench in every touch point, in almost every respect, construction quality, design, all that stuff, I still pretty much only use the AB 5200 because with the Nighthawk, I have to deal with the gap. Now, I've learned to deal with it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't bother me, but it is something that I have to consider when I use the bench because the back pad isn't long enough. With the AB 5200, that back pad is long enough to use as a flat bench all on its own, which allows me not to have to worry about the gap. This bench is the same, so let me show you. What I'll do is use this the same way that I use my AB 5200, which is I sit down right on the gap, and that means that when I lean back for a bench press, what you'll see is that my head is on there, my butt's on there, I've got plenty of room to do leg drive and everything, and I am on the bench just fine. So I don't have to worry about the gap on this bench. I don't have to worry about the gap on the AB 5200. The other reason that I like this type of a bench is I also like to sometimes bench with my feet on the bench. This takes the leg drive out. It focuses more of the exercise on your chest. It makes it a little bit harder. And when you have to use the whole bench to lay on and lay over the gap, you can't do this. Whereas with this particular bench, and also with the AB 5200, I am perfectly comfortable at 6'6", using this bench like this. I'm not on the gap at all. My head's fully supported. I've got room for a little bit of shift when I do my leg drive. So for me, this is a very comfortable bench. Now I want to show you a few things that I really like about this bench. I like about the rep benches, but I actually don't like about the ABX. Listen. Notice the nice secure thunk. By protecting this little pin right here, the adjustment pin, with some UHMW plastic, you don't have any metal on metal contact. As nice as the ABX is, every time you lift it up and down, it's kind of clank, 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 clank. Now, is that a functional difference? Does it make it less stable? No.
I don't understand you people. I mean, all these picky little points you keep bringing up, they don't mean nothing.
But to me, just from a user's perspective, I really like the sound and the solidity of that. So I like that. The other thing I like is 17 adjustments up and down. So 17 adjustments, you've got laser cut numbers so that if you like paying attention to the number that you're on. Also, those numbers are important because different of their accessories will require you to set this at a different height for them to be used. As I mentioned already, you're gonna have different color rails. So you're gonna be able to get a white, you've got black like you see on the unit already. You're gonna be able to have a gray one, which I think looks pretty slick. And then you're also gonna have a red one. So Coach Carp and the Kurt Locker and those guys can get red and black. And then there's also a blue rail too, which looks pretty cool. The blue and black actually looks a lot nicer than I thought it would. So there's your adjustable rails and your differences. The other cool thing is that when you look at these, and I'll use the white one to show you. When you look here, this is actually the foot. So this is actually the rail that goes on the other side. So this is the part that would be down. You'll notice this little pathway right here. So here's your 0 degree adjustment, and you've got one that goes past. This is going to be for one of my favorite accessories. So make sure you hit subscribe, make sure that you hit the notification bell so that when the accessory video comes out, you can see the accessories that use this particular slide here. This is super ingenious, something that you don't see on any other bench and something that you're not gonna see on any other of the attachments that use this. This is just super cool. They are gonna change this a little bit for the production model to make it longer. You'll see why that's important when you watch the accessory video, but I wanted to point that out because not only is this the -10 adjustment, but the reason it's long like this has a function, which is pretty cool, I think. And of course, the last thing that we'll point out are these knurled handles. One thing I like about this is these are actually almost the width of my hand. They are knurled. Again, the knurling's not as nice as on the rep benches. However, the handle is wider, so I do find myself able to hold on to this more. Now that comes into handy because you're gonna need to actually use this to move this up and down with some of the attachments on there, so it's nice to have a bigger purchase. But in the end, very, very nice handles, knurled like you would want, and again, black on black. The last thing I'll point out, which is one of my knocks on the AB 5200 from Rep, over time, the bolts on either side of the hinge on that come loose, so the back wobbles back and forth. So I constantly have to tighten that. Maybe not constantly, but every few weeks or so, I have to take a couple of Allen keys and tighten that down. With this, one of the nice tests of a stable incline-decline bench is this. So notice that's the vinyl squeaking under my hand, but There's no play, there's no back and forth. This is an extremely solid bench. So when I mentioned at the beginning that I didn't know what to expect when I saw the Tib Bar Guy was making a bench, one of the first things that I tested was that, because if the bench isn't well designed, it's not going to be able to be stable like that. So that's the back pad, that's the adjustments. As with all of these points along, if you have any questions on this, I'm spending about 2.5 days here. I spent all day yesterday shooting B-roll and training on this thing along with all the accessories, so I'm pretty familiar with it at this point. So if you have questions, let me know. If I don't know the answer, I'll reach out to my guys here at the Tib Bar Guy and have them measure something for you, whatever you want. But if I haven't covered everything, let me know. From here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come down to the back end of the bench. We're gonna look at the other 2 accessory ports and then this rear foot here. So we're gonna finish up down here at the back end of the bench here, and I wanna show you a couple of things. First of all, from the pad, here you can kind of see the thickness of the pad, the firmness. It's a good kind of a medium firm, more on the firmer side of that. So it's not soft enough to where when you sit on the gap, you sink down and hit that hinge. But it's not super hard either, which I like. I love that it's nice and clean around the outside. A lot of benches for a while were putting this trim piece on the bottom just to hide some shoddy construction. This is actually really well made. The vinyl is grippy. I actually like this vinyl better than I like Reps for one reason. Now, Reps is stickier, so if you're looking for the stickiest vinyl, the most grippy vinyl, that's gonna be Reps, what they call, I think they call it clean grip. It is a terrible name for vinyl because it is anything but clean. That stuff is so sticky that dirt just sticks to it. Those benches in my gym are just constantly dirty. This isn't sticky like that, but it's plenty grippy for working out. Like I said, I trained on this yesterday. No problem getting some nice leg drive and driving my shoulders into the pad, not slipping around or moving or anything. The seams are nice and straight, really well made, and I like the pad a lot. Up here at the top, you've got, again, this is 3D printed. This will be a little bit different on the production model. They're gonna make this a little bit shorter so that you don't hit your head on the edge here in case you do kind of put your head up here. You've got another accessory port up here. Now this accessory port and the one at the bottom, what they have is they have this pop pin, which also clamps down, but these also have these little side screws here. Now these are gonna have a different head on them. Everything's going to be knurled, everything's going to be metal, so there aren't gonna be any plastic knobs anywhere on this bench, which is nice. So unlike a lot of stuff like on the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro, there's a lot of plastic knobs, and I've seen people report that over time, just screwing those down and unscrewing them, they tend to crack a little bit here and there. So what they've done is they're gonna go to all metal knobs here on the accessory port. So that's the top of the back pad. Here at the bottom is the third accessory port, and it's right on the foot. So a couple cool things about this foot, which is unique among benches. First of all, what you'll notice is, hey everybody, it's Tim in the editing studio. I wanted to break in on the video right here to clarify something. Since the time I shot this, the guys have actually changed a bunch of things on this bench. So I wanted to break in and let you know a couple things that have changed. First of all, I put a text overlay letting you know that they have looked at the knurling on the bench and they are changing that a little bit to upgrade it to closer to what the Rep Fitness benches have. And then the other big change is going to have to do with what this section of the video is about, which is the back of the bench and the wheelbase. The wheelbase that you see here in the video is not what's going to be on the production model bench. I and a whole bunch of other people apparently asked them pretty quickly, will this bench dock in the Aries? And at the current way it is, or the way you see it in the video, it will not, but the production model will. They have decided to move those wheels further apart so that they will dock into the Aries. So I know a lot of you guys will have that question. So I wanted to jump in here and replace the part of the video where I say one of the things I wish was different is that it would dock with the Aries, to let you know that it will dock with the Aries. Now back to the video. The other thing is, with the smaller wheels, while it is easier to move a bench with bigger wheels, so I would tell you one of the first things I said is, hey, can you put bigger wheels on this? It would be a little bit easier to move. Again, not that it's hard to move, but it would be easier with big wheels. The reason that they design it like this is all of the benches with bigger wheels, the covers kind of come up off this back foot. And with how some of the attachment for this work, you're gonna wanna stand on this. And when you stand on this, if they had that raised cover, it would really get in the way. And again, make sure you catch that attachment video. You'll see what I'm talking about. But this gives you a nice flat platform to stand on without anything in the way. So I think the trade-off is good there, being that you're buying this not only to be a good bench, but also for the ecosystem. And again, designing those attachments from the ground up to be great attachments means that you have to have things like a flat plate to stand on. And then one of the coolest things, and I haven't seen this on another bench, let me know in the comments if I'm just missing something or haven't seen the bench that has this. This has retractable band pegs back here. Again, which works well with some of the attachment, but just, I could see using it for a bunch of different stuff just as a bench as well. They are magnetic, so they have that nice little satisfying little little clunk at the end there, which is pretty cool, but really cool to have band pegs down here in the base. That just gives you more flexibility with the bench. And again, as you can see, nice, thick, heavy gauge metal. This metal right here is way thicker than, this is 11 gauge. You can see this is good 3 times the size of that. So another good look at the construction quality and the build quality here. Again, all metal knurled knobs, metal knurled handles. So a really nice overall construction quality. And again, just like you saw with that front seat, a bunch of cool stuff put in where a lot of benches have dead space. These guys have actually taken the time to put some stuff, some useful stuff on this bench here. Let's set this back up, have a seat, and I will go over, if you're in the market for a bench, who I think this is right for, who I don't think this is right for, and maybe which of those other benches might be right for you if this one doesn't do it. So let's take a look at the Apex and put it in its place among the whole landscape of benches that are available right now. First of all, we're getting to a point, and it's just an awesome point in garage gyms, where in order to play the game, you have to start off as really, really good. Gone are the days, or really going soon are the days, where you can be a company where you can just go to a factory in China and go, hey, make me a bench because I need to sell a bench as a company. And there's a lot of companies still doing that. But if you're in the market for a good bench, there are a bunch of good ones to pick from. And all of them are going to have all of the fundamentals that a good adjustable bench will have. It's going to be solid. It's going to be stable. It's going to have good padding. It's going to have good vinyl. It's going to be a 3-post design. It's going to have a number of adjustments that you want. Anymore, it's going to have an accessory port, right? So those are the things that pretty much any good bench from a major company that you pick is going to have those things, and I think that the Apex falls into that category. Does it destroy any of the other benches in its class because it's just so much better at those things? No, but it does the fundamentals well, and that's what you want from a bench, especially if it's going to be the center of an ecosystem like this one is. So the things that I like about it, I like the pad, I like the back pad that's nice and long that I can lay on as I showed you. That's one of my favorite things. That's why I use the AB5200 at home. For me as a tall person, that's really a must. And also when you see, I keep promoting this accessory video, but you'll see when you watch it why I'm so excited about the accessories. The longer back actually serves a function in one of the accessories, which is really cool. So I like that a lot. I like the fit and finish. I like that it's all blacked out. I like that everything is well thought out. These guys have been working on this bench for 2 years, and I saw some of the early prototypes. Let me tell you, they have come a really, really long way and done some really nice things. I think that it's got all of the touch points that you want. Everything seems to be in the right place. Every time I reach for a handle, it's in the right place. Every time I look for an adjustment, it's in the right place. It's pretty intuitive to use. I like that a lot. Some of the smaller things that I wish were different is I wish there were fewer pop pins, and I don't know that there's a way around that because this is designed to work as the centerpiece of those 10 accessories that I keep talking about, and you need to have pop pins not only to seat them in the right place, but also to be able to crank down. I just found myself doing a lot of cranking and uncranking when I was using this and setting it up and setting up the accessories for all the B-roll and training on it and things. There's just a lot of knobs. Now, is it like the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro where you're overwhelmed? No, each knob is in the right place. There's a couple of knobs at the end of each accessory port like there should be. So it's not like you look at them and go, what does this one do? There's just a lot of them. Another small I wish is the size of the wheels that I pointed out. While this isn't hard to move around, bigger wheels would make it a little bit easier to move around, especially for those of you. This is a nice rolled rubber flooring in here, so there's no issues. Some of you guys have, seams in your cement or little bumps and dips and things like that. The smaller the wheel, the harder it is to maneuver over those things. So that's something that was just a little bit of an I wish for me. Again, not a deal breaker or anything like that, but just something that I kind of noticed as I used it. So as you can see, they've done what they should have done. They made a nice, stable, well-made, well thought out bench with a ton of stuff on it that nobody else has, that's going to work well with an ecosystem of accessories, and it's going to work really, really well as an adjustable bench. But that said, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are lots of really good, solid, stable, well-made adjustable benches that more and more of them are accepting accessories as well. So hey, it's Tim the editor jumping back in here at the end as I was watching back the YouTube video before I posted it, because pre-orders are open for the Apex. I realized that I needed to record a new ending to the video. When I was in Cincinnati, I just didn't have enough time to think about the current landscape of benches that are on the market and just how many there are for you guys to pick from. And I've also put a lot of thought into, now while this video was designed to kind of show you what I liked and wish was different about the Apex and hopefully give you a good exposure to it if you're looking at getting it. But my job here at GymCrafter isn't to help you buy the Apex. My job at GymCrafter is to help you guys pick the right bench for your gym. And that's really where my heart is. A couple things I'll tell you right off the bat. Number one, I have affiliate links for all benches. So there's not a financial incentive for me for you to buy the Apex or the ABX from Freak Athlete or the Nighthawk from like, it doesn't matter to me financially which of my links you use. What matters to me is that whichever link you use is that you're happy with what you get and you go, hey, actually Tim steered me right. He helped me out. That's my goal in the long run, is to make sure that all of you guys have awesome gyms. So I didn't think that I had my thoughts together enough when I was in Cincinnati to do a wrap up of the video to help you do that. Now that I've thought about it for a week, and now that I've had some time training on my rep fitness benches down in the garage and really thinking about how do those compare to the Apex, to the ABX when I use that, I think I can give you a much better kind of roundup for that. So when you look at benches, the first and foremost thing that I like to point out to people when they're buying a bench is this isn't something that you should buy for the price. Now, some of you are on a budget, you can only afford a certain amount. I'm not saying that you need to spend money you don't have. Please don't finance something because some guy on a YouTube channel said you shouldn't buy an inexpensive bench. There are some very good economy benches out there. A couple that I'll give you an example of, RitFit just released a new bench, which looks pretty good. And then Kepi has been trying to send me their benches for years. I don't review those benches because I don't personally recommend them for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're missing some very important things I think benches should have. Number two, and you can see this, I think Kepi has sent their new bench to at least 172,000 YouTubers. There's more than a few reviews out there now on that bench. And every single one of them says that for the price, it's pretty good. And I'm sure for the price, it is pretty good. It has a good reputation, and you know, all of the reviewers seem to agree that for the price, it's a decent bench. I just don't think you should buy a bench for the price. I think you should buy a rack that's good for the price. I think it's okay to buy a barbell that's really good for the price, because those are a couple of things that your average home gym owner, you're never going to know the difference. With the bench, you're going to know the difference. You're going to know every time you sit on the bench and it squeaks and rattles and moves and shifts. You're going to know on a bench when something wears out. You're going to know on a bench when the vinyl wears through. You're going to know on a bench when the cool moving part that they added to try and make it look like a much more expensive bench stops working. Like, you're going to know. A bench is a foundational core piece of gear for your gym, and I don't think you should buy your bench for the price. I think you should buy your bench to be a great bench. To me, that rules out those RitFits and those Kepis and those things. Again, as good as they are for the price, I think if you can find it in your budget to buy something a little nicer, I think for a bench you should. Do you need to spend $1,000 on a Rogue Man Array? Probably not. Do you need to mortgage your house to buy the Prime Fitness Shorty bench? Probably not. Those are probably awesome benches, and if somebody wants to send me one of those, I would happily take it. But as far as me outfitting a new gym, if I was to start over from scratch today, I wouldn't look at those entry-level pieces and I wouldn't look at those top-end pieces. I would look somewhere in the middle. We're entering a time now where there's lots of good stuff somewhere in the middle, right? So I want to talk about the things that you're going to come across and where to look. So first of all, I would immediately rule out anything that doesn't have an accessory port these days. We're right on the front end of this, but I think you're now seeing enough different attachments come out. And when you watch the attachment video for the Apex, you're going to see just where this whole bench ecosystem thing is going, because man, are there some cool attachments for this bench. But I don't think that I would buy a bench that doesn't have that. So that narrows you down to a few, right? At least at this point. First, it narrows you down to the old school champ, the Iron Master. Now, I personally have never been a fan of the Iron Master bench. Forget the attachments for a second, just look at the bench itself. I don't necessarily think it's all that great of a bench. For me, I don't like the wide foot at the bottom. I think that the right design for a good bench is a single post at the foot. I don't like the seat. I think it's too small. I think that it doesn't adjust up and down, which makes it very uncomfortable for some movements. And I don't like the arm that holds the seat on. To me, it touches my leg in a weird place. I don't want anything touching my leg in a weird place when I'm lifting, especially if I'm trying to lift a little heavier. So for me, it's never been a choice for a bench. But for those of you out there who have garage gyms and you don't have the space in the budget or in the garage for a bunch of machines, but you want that functionality, man, Iron Master has really been serving the garage gym community really well over the years with that bench ecosystem, because it's allowed a lot of you to build gyms that are much more fully functional than you would have been able to without that bench and its ecosystem. I just think at this point that you can get a much better bench and still get your ecosystem. And this Apex is a great example of that. The ABX by Freak Athlete's a great example of that. And then when you just look at the Rep Fitness benches, even though they are coming, I think they're trying to break the world record for the slowest release rate on accessories for their products. But eventually they should have a nice ecosystem out for their benches as well. And I think that any of those three benches are much better benches just at being a bench than the Iron Masters. Now, some of you out there will argue with me on that, and awesome. If that's your preferred bench, that's great. If you love your bench, man, you should keep using it, and that's what you should have for you. For me, though, I just think that there's better choices, especially for those of you out there looking for a new bench or just building a garage gym from scratch. So where do I think you should look at this particular point in time? I think you should look three places. Number one, the best bench company in the world is still Rep Fitness. When you look at just overall, just the quality, especially the Nighthawk. If you haven't seen the Nighthawk, it's hard to describe just how good that bench is. And by good, I don't mean the number of functions. It doesn't have as many back adjustments or seat adjustments as the Apex. It doesn't have a cool self-adjusting gapless system like the ABX. Its back doesn't flip down. Like, it's missing some functions that other benches have. But when you just look at overall, what's the nicest bench? The best vinyl, the best padding. That padding on this thing, this molded padding they use on this bench, it needs to become the standard for all benches like yesterday. It's just awesome. Their knobs, the knurling, the way that they apply the finish to them, it's not powder coated, it is on there. It's never gonna wear off. Just every little detail, aspect, corner curve, design piece, wherever, it is just, it's awesome. And if you're looking for a bench right now that, yes, it's got an accessory port, but man, I just want the nicest bench out there. It's just aesthetically the nicest bench. I think you can't go wrong with the Nighthawk. I think it's an amazing bench. Now, that said, I've got one in my garage that I never use because I opt to use the Rep Fitness AB5200 because it's bigger and it fits my body better. The bigger back pad on the AB5200, I keep going back to over and over and over again. And it's one of the things I really like about this Apex is it's got a big enough back pad to use in the same way that I use the AB5200. But I don't think you can go wrong with either of those benches from Rep Fitness. If you were looking for what's an awesome bench and you're going to trade some of that fit and finish for functionality, then I think you've narrowed yourself down these days to either the Freak Athlete ABX or the Apex by the Tib Bar Guy. Those right now are the two. And if I was building a gym right now, as much as it kills me to say this because my brain is still like, Rep makes the best benches. It should always be a Rep bench. I would have to probably look between the ABX and the Apex. I really would, just because of the additional functionality and the attachments and the things that you can do with those benches. So as much as I like my Rep Fitness benches downstairs, and as much as I can wholeheartedly recommend them to you if you like the finish better, if you want something in a clear grind, if you like the idea of those super sweet knurled knobs that they have, you're gonna love those benches. But like I said, I think if I was to start from scratch now, I would look at one of these two, the Freak Athlete ABX or the Tib Bar Guy Apex. And just to cut to the chase, for my own personal training needs, I like this bench better, the Apex better. But here's why. So if you're looking at the Freak Athlete ABX, it does a couple of things that this Apex bench does not do. It has the flip down back, and then it's got the self-adjusting gapless seat. So let me take each one of those in turn. First of all, if you want those two things, that's the bench to go with. It's an awesome bench. I used it. I was very impressed with the build quality of it. It's built a lot better than their Hyper Pro. It's a great bench. It's truly a really, really good bench. And if you want a flip down back seat and that self-adjusting gapless design, then that's the way to go. However, just keep in mind that those two things come with a couple of trade-offs. But if you like that flip over back seat because you can kind of lean over it and do some preacher curls, and it flips down and gets out of the way for your upright shoulder work and for overhead tricep work, then that's a great way to go. On the Apex, there is an accessory that you can buy. Now, that is a drawback. You have to buy something additional, and the flip down seat comes as part of that bench. But there is an accessory or attachment you can buy that offsets all of that. There's this dedicated preacher pad, which allows you to do your preacher curls sitting down, which I prefer to kind of standing up and leaning over on the back of the bench. And then also there is a seat pad that you can put on that allows you to sit straight up and not have anything in the way behind you. And it's adjustable. I think you can watch the attachment video. I demonstrate all of that in the attachment video. So I think there's ways to do it on the Apex. It just requires that you buy accessories. As far as the gap thing goes, first of all, I'm going to put up a picture right now of the most recent production mock-up of the Apex, and you'll see how small they've got the gap. The unit that you saw in the video was a pre-production model, with a much larger pad gap than is going to be in the final production model. So take a close look at this picture and you'll see that they brought it down, but there's still a gap. To me, the gap isn't an issue, and I learned that lesson when I had the Blackwing from Rhett Fitness. The Blackwing from Rhett Fitness has all these knobs and doodads that allow you to close the gap. And what I found was that I used it like the first day. And then I realized that the gap's a non-issue. It's one of those things that sounds cool on paper, and then in real life isn't all as useful as a lot of the marketers would make it out to be. Now, some of you out there hate the gap in a bench pad, and you're gonna want the ABX by Freak Athlete, and I totally get that. Everybody's not the same. But I would say that for most people, I don't know that the gap is as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. And on the ABX for Freak Athlete, you have a trade-off. Because there's a bunch of stuff underneath it to make that work, its seat won't decline. So I actually like the fact that the seat declines on the Apex, because if you're doing inclined ab work on the ABX, that seat's in the way of your head. And on the Apex, it's not. So I like that. So again, for me, for my training style, I don't think that the flip down seat or the adjustable gap is a huge issue. Again, I got affiliate links for both of them down below. I don't care which one you buy. I just want to make sure that I'm kind of correctly describing the differences between the two. And for me, the Apex not only offers you solutions for those two things, it also offers just better attachments at this point. When you watch the attachment video, you'll see what I'm talking about. The fact that it has 3 accessory ports means 2 things. Number one, the attachments work better, because some attachments need to attach at a different end of the bench. Some attachments need to attach higher or lower on the bench. And when you've got 3 accessory ports, that allows you to do that. It's a lot more versatile. And speaking of versatility is the other advantage of those 3 ports. Down the road, as aftermarket companies come out with accessories for these benches, they're going to be able to design better accessories for the Apex than the benches that have a singular accessory port on them. And I think that that's a huge advantage. So for me, like I said, I would probably go with the Apex. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Again, I think there's going to be those of you out there who buy a Nighthawk and are thrilled. I think that there's those of you out there who will buy an AB 5200 and will be thrilled. I think that there's those of you out there who will buy the Apex and be thrilled, and to buy the Freak Athlete ABX and be thrilled. Hopefully I've helped you walk through all of those. I have used pretty much every bench in the market at this point. So if you guys have questions as you're trying to buy a bench for your garage, please let me know. Drop those questions down in the comments. I'm happy to answer them for you to the best of my ability. And I'll probably ask you a bunch of questions about how you train, because I think that, again, we're in such a good situation now. There's so many good options for you guys. A lot of which one you buy comes down to how you train and what you want to do in your gym and how many attachments you need and things like that. But again, any questions you have, I want to help you get a bench that you love. Put those down below. I'm happy to answer them. While you're down there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, share this with friends, all that kind of fun YouTube algorithm stuff. We just broke 10,000 subscribers here on the channel, which just blows my mind. So there's a lot of you guys out there referring this stuff to friends. So thank you. And if you made it to this point, as I always say, thank you for watching my big long videos, because I know that's not the most popular format for some people, but for those of you that watch all the way through, man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And until the next really big long video, I'm Tim with GymCrafter.